Hey y'all, welcome back to the HackShack. Today we've got another box from the folks at Hackerboxes. This is Hackerbox 110, and the name is Synth.
And everybody's life was made easier by the arrival on the scene of an American, Dr. Robert Moog. Dr. Moog showed that one oscillator could produce many notes. Dr. Moog's principle was called voltage control. Each time a musician hit a key or altered one of the controls on the panel, he in effect transmitted a particular voltage across that part of the circuit that he was using. It was this voltage which controlled the output of the instrument, or the synthesizer, as it had now come to be called.
Let's get this on the bench and see what we have inside here. This looks like a Raspberry Pi Pico 2 that's got that new RP2050 chip on it. This looks like a bunch of 1 mega ohm SMD 1206 resistors. This looks like two EC11 rotary encoders with aluminum knobs. Here we've got some little rubber feet bumper things. This looks like a PCM5102A I2S digital audio module. Looks like the one we just played with Hackerbox 109. This looks like the PicoBoot RP2040 16 meg development board. Here we've got a purple nylon braided micro USB cable. That's pretty nice. Here we've got a round 240 by 240 color display module. And if you notice, it looks like the screen is separated from the backlight part. Maybe that was just something that happened in storage or something got overlooked during the manufacturing process. This seems to press back in place and be okay, even though when I did that, it got a little bit off center, but it seems okay. Here we've got the exclusive Hack the Planet luggage tag. That'll be kind of fun for your next trip. Here we've got the exclusive RP Synth-y PCB. That looks pretty nice. Here we've got the exclusive Synth Hacker sticker. Here we've got the Hackerbox 110 collectible reference card. Got some pinouts for the audio module there and pinout information for the Pico 2 on the back. And last but not least, we've got this really nice looking exclusive full color RP Touchy PCB. That looks really cool. Before we move on, I'd like to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, PCBWay. Did you know you can get custom PCBs made starting at only $5? And in addition to their PCB prototype service, they also offer PCB assembly, CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication, and injection molding services. Check the link in the description for more details. And again, we thank PCBWay for sponsoring this video. Just like they always do, the folks from Hackerboxes have included a great set of instructions here available on Instructables. I have a link to that in the description. Even if you don't have the Hackerbox, you might find it pretty handy. Okay, the first thing the Instructable has us do is install the Moo editor from Adafruit. And you can see it's a pretty straightforward editor. They actually have an online one there too, you can see, but I just got the Windows installer, downloaded that, and ran through a normal kind of yes, next kind of Windows install. You know how it goes. But you can see there they also have ones for Mac and Linux. When I started it up for the first time, I just selected this Python 3 mode. Next, the Instructable has us get this Pico 2 out of the package and plug it in. It says that you should see an LED on. I didn't notice an LED on this one, but the drive popped up on the desktop indicating it was ready to have a firmware file dropped into it. I then followed the link to get the version of CircuitPython specifically for the Pico 2. And once I got that, I downloaded it. Then I just did a copy and paste and dropped it into that drive that popped up previously. And when that's done, you essentially have the version of CircuitPython flash to your Pico 2. The Instructable says the green LED will be blinking slowly, and that did appear to be the case after the flash. Next, it was time to configure the audio module, and the Instructable has some certain jumper settings we want to make on the back of this thing. And you can see, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can either jump it to high or low on each one. So we just follow the instructions here and make them match. After we get that done, we're going to set it aside for now. Next, we're going to focus on getting this Pico 2 mounted onto the RP Synth-y board here. Let's see, I got a little bit of blue tack there to hold it in place while I tack one connection down there. Then I get another one, and then I just start soldering every single one of them. And if you notice, there's no pins here. We're putting this right on the board itself, and we're using these castellated connections. So it's a little different than normal. And there's a really good how-to video on how to work with these castellated pads from SparkFun. And there's a link to that in the Instructable you may want to check out. But it's not too bad. You'll see sometimes I'll have a little bit on the pad, and then I'll put some through the hole at the top, and you kind of heat the outside pad until you see that it's heating up what's in the hole. That's what I do anyway. Next, we're going to flip the board over and get ready to mount this display. First thing we're going to do is get these pins in here, and I differ from the Instructable here. I had the longer side going through the front or the display side there, and I pushed them down real hard, so what was left on the back side, the pins weren't protruding from the plastic. So I soldered them up and then cut the long parts off the front, and then I just pulled the plastic off of what was the back and just left me with some little nubs there to go through the board. And I probably would have been a little bit better off if I would have left a little bit more sticking out after I pulled this off. Then I mounted it on the board to make sure it would fit okay. And then I actually ended up taking it back off and using a little bit of blue tack as a little bit of a buffer. Then putting it back and soldering it into place. Next, I shifted focus back to the audio module. The first thing I did there was snap off a single header pin. Then I snapped off a group of 6. Next, I stuck 6 of them in this location. And then I stuck the single one over here in this location. Then I placed the module down on top of it and soldered it into place. And this is a little bit different order than what the Instructable says. So this is just what I did. So you do what's best for you. And then I soldered the pins on the opposite side. You can see how I had to hold that one in place a little bit as I did it to kind of level it out. Then I removed these long extended pins. Next, I popped in the 2 encoders and soldered them into place. The Instructable next directs us to cut one of these tabs off of each encoder. The Instructable says to take some paper or something to put up in the caps so they won't bottom out, but I just used a little bit of blue tack here and then pushed the caps on. Next, I put on the 4 peel and stick rubber feet. Then I plugged in the Pico to get ready to put some code on it. And after I did that, this Circuit Pi drive popped up. I followed the Instructable and first got this GC9A01 file, and I downloaded that, and then I copied that into this lib directory on that same Circuit Pi drive. Then I grabbed this Synth-y balls Python script and copy and pasted that into Mu, and I saved it as code.py in the root directory of the Circuit Pi drive. And when you name it code.py, it will run automatically on boot up. So that's why we did that. And this is what it was like when I ran it. And you'll hear it's making some noise here. And I didn't realize that I was supposed to be able to turn the right encoder and make different things happen here. I just thought I could add balls to this and it would make little beeping noises and that kind of thing. It's supposed to actually be more like this. At the time, I hadn't realized I actually had an issue, so I just moved on to the next thing, which was checking out this Synth-y drone program from the Instructable. So I downloaded that, did the same thing. I saved it as the code.py so it would run on startup, and this is what I got. Stuff was changing when I pushed down on the right encoder, but there were no changes happening when I twisted the right encoder, only the left encoder. So then I kind of knew something was going on here. You can actually see the code that's built into the Synth-y balls program actually has some status of the encoders. You can see here the one encoder is not changing. So I thought I had maybe some kind of hardware problem or I messed up something soldering. So I did a bunch of tracing around, trying to make sure I had good continuity from A to B on all these different points. Even though things tested okay, I went ahead and reflowed some of these things. And none of that made a bit of difference. It still was not working. So I took this encoder off and replaced it with an encoder out of a older Hackerbox that I haven't done yet to see if that will make a difference. It did not make a difference. It still wasn't working right. And the next thing I did that I don't have any video of, sorry, was just test the encoder with a multimeter across, one of the output legs and the common leg, and if you twist it one way or the other, depending on which leg you're reading, you should see a little dip with your multimeter, if it's working properly. And I did. And so that really proved the encoder was okay. I'd proven that all the traces and the wiring was okay. So that made me really focus and look at the code. And when I say code, I really mean CircuitPython. And I found an older issue here where someone was talking about the rotary encoder wasn't working and it was using the same two pins that our right encoder uses in this project. And I noticed in theirs, they're saying here that it started working in 9.2.1. So at the time of this project, or this Hackerbox, when I was doing it, the latest was 9.2.3, which is what I put on there, and it didn't work. So then I put 9.2.2 on, and it didn't work. So then I went back to 9.2.1, and well, this is what we got. So that appears to be what the issue was. So I know 9.2.4 is out now. I wonder if it's still broken in that or if it would work. I may have to try that and see. So if yours doesn't seem to be working, check out that 9.2.1 code before you go through a bunch of hassle like I did. All right, the next thing the Instructable tells us to do is plug in this PicoBoot dev board. So I've got that plugged in and the green LED should light up and we can see that it's lit up there. Then it tells us to follow the link and get the latest version of CircuitPython. And we got to make sure this is, similar to the original Pico, not the Pico 2. So I grabbed 9.2.3, which was the latest. Then I put that file into the drive that popped up, the RP2 drive there. And once that copies over, it'll reboot. And if you didn't see this drive when you plugged it in, you can hold down the boot button when you give it power or hold down boot while you hit reset and it should pop up and let you put your firmware on there. And we should see the green LED blinking very slowly, which we do here. Next, the Instructable tells us to place all 26 of our surface mount resistors onto the board here. So I went ahead and soldered all of these places on one side. That took a little bit of time, but it wasn't too bad. And you'll see here, I think I missed one and I had to clean up a little bit of a mess there. And I didn't get it on R17. Then I made a little mess and got all these resistors out and then kind of OCD arranged them in place. And so they all have the same orientation. And once I got those squared away, I started actually holding them in place with a pair of tweezers and soldering them in. Next, that 2040 board was mounted. I pre-populated one pad while I held it in place and kind of got that to hold still. Then I just went around the rest of these. And this is that same deal. It's flat on the board. So we're using that castellation style soldering in place. You can refer to that tutorial earlier if you want some a nice video showing some good close-ups of the technique used here. After all that soldering on this white board, took a little alcohol and a swab or two and cleaned things up a bit. and then attached the rubber feet. And then I plugged it in so we could throw some new code at it. I grabbed this touch slider and touchy serial test Python programs from the Instructable. I put the touchy slider into the root directory of the CircuitPy drive, and then I copy and pasted the serial test program into the code.py name so it would run automatically on boot up. And here you can see with the serial monitor running in Moo, as I touch different things here on the control pad, those are registered there. So that's a pretty cool little diagnostic and lets us know that everything seems to be working as expected. Next, we're instructed to go get this MIDI library from Adafruit. And so I find that folder there, and I actually just grabbed the whole thing as a zip. And I'm going to grab that Adafruit_MIDI folder, and I'm going to drop it into the lib folder on my CircuitPy drive. And then I grab this slider toy Python program, and I put it into code.py and save it so it'll run on boot up. And here you can see the MIDI output when we mess with the sliders or any of the touchpads there. The Instructable goes on to talk about, how you could use this to show an example. It doesn't mention this one, but I really like LMMS. You can get that at lmms.io. It is a really neat open source DAW. They've got versions for Linux and Windows and Mac OS. There are a bunch of plugins and a lot of example songs you can dissect. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty straightforward install. And then you'll see here in just a little bit, I'll rig up a few things and use the detected Adafruit MIDI controller to trigger some instruments. So needless to say, I had a blast playing with this thing. This is a really fun Hackerbox. It looks like we're going to have ourselves another giveaway. The nice folks at Hackerboxes have graciously offered to send a Hackerbox 110 to a randomly picked commenter. We'll be picking the comment on February 7th, 2025. And remember, Hackerboxes only ships to US addresses for this giveaway. So if your comment's picked, but you don't have a US shipping address that we can use, we'll need to pick someone else. Good luck. At the time of this recording, there are still Hackerbox 110s in stock. If you don't win the giveaway, you want to get one, check them out. Or go ahead and subscribe. Hey, if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Hope to see you again next time. Take care. Bye-bye.